Welcome to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series, brought to you by the C.T. Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. We're having a conversation about work-life balance, how to navigate and overcome challenges within your career, and how to make business more accommodating to a diverse workforce.
Hello and welcome. This is our podcast series where we try to bring to you people, individuals that have been there, done that. But really, what you see, the result you see seems like a linear path of success, from one success to the other. What goes behind that success? The bumps they faced, the hurdles they had to meet, the challenges they had to encounter, doesn't always seem obvious. And our goal through these podcasts is really to unearth those challenges that are not that obvious, bring those to you, and talk to people who can inspire us by what they did and how they did it. Today we have with us a very, very special person. I just want to give you a little bit of a backdrop on how we first met. So as we all know, Harvey happened in Houston. The last week of August will always stay etched in our memory for a long, long time to come. And the university had shut down classes for about a week. And we had some leaks in our building, the business school building at Melcher Hall. And the cleaning crew had come in and tried to clean up the water, the mess and everything. But it all could only be done after the impact of Harvey had subsided. So we had very little time to catch up. Long story short, classes were supposed to resume the Tuesday after Labor Day at 8 a.m. in the morning. And remember, for us, classes mean 6,500 students. That's how many students we have in the business school. So the Monday before, the Monday night, a group of us came to Bauer to see what was happening and was the leak fixed, to what extent the damage still persisted. And what we saw was a sight that I will never forget. There was dust all over, carpets had been pulled off because the water had drained from the second floor to the first floor. There was sheetrock that needed to be fixed. Carpets needed to be replaced. Painting needed to be done, not in one small area, but in a huge area, in several classrooms, in several rooms that had computers in them. In short, it was what I would have thought would be an impossible task to complete, to fix before classes at 8 a.m. the next morning. And I was told that we had a construction business that was helping us deal with that. We had a contractor that was helping us. And so I was wanting to meet this person. And as I toured the college, I heard the sound, "Hello, Dean." And I looked around and I saw a young woman dressed in an orange t-shirt. And I didn't know who this person was. And she introduced herself and she said, "I'm Raquel Boujourne." And she runs a construction business, A Status Construction. And they were tasked with fixing the mess that was Melcher Hall that evening. And looking at her, I just hoped she knew what she was doing. And then she told me something else that made me a little more apprehensive. I was torn between, should I be happy or should I be apprehensive? She said, "I am just so happy to be back at the college. I graduated from Bauer with an MBA." That was music to my ears. And I kept thinking, I really hope we taught her the right stuff. I really hope we taught her best business practice so that by the next morning, she actually has the place ready. Anyway, long story short, Raquel Boujourne and her team worked all night. The next morning, we were here at about 6:30 that morning with a lot of water and granola bars to help our students. What I saw that next morning was night and day is probably not even getting close to it. It was as if Harvey had not happened. It was as if there had never been a leak. And it wouldn't have happened but for Raquel and her team. I was just so impressed with the quality of their work. They came back and fixed all those little corners that they wanted to make sure were perfect. They came back and redid the carpets, the painting. And it was just so humbling to see a Bauer alumna and a young woman leading this effort, making something that in my mind would have been the impossible task that Monday evening. And to give you a little bit of a background on Raquel, before she came into our MBA program, she was, get this, she was a singer who toured in Mexico. And she realized at a very young age that she did not want to be in that profession. So she went back and pursued her education further. She came to Bauer, she got an MBA, and she's been working her way through the construction business, which, as we all know, is not always friendly to women. So with me today is Raquel. Welcome, Raquel.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So I thought if you could start by giving us in your words, describe your journey. In other words, what was it like growing up?
Well, my mother was actually a single mother, and it was me and my sister, and so we had very humble beginnings. I had to go to 6 different schools. We were that family that just had nothing but a mattress in an apartment at one time. And then she met my stepfather, he is the one that really raised us after I was 7 or 8 years old. And I think that was probably the first seed of determination of we're never going to be poor again. So I went to high school at Clearbrook High School at CCISD, and then I had an opportunity to tour with a soccer team, AS Roma. I really loved music. Music was kind of my outlet to some of the struggle growing up. And so I had this awesome opportunity, and I actually homeschooled the last year of my high school education and got my diploma from Texas Tech University High School. And in that time, we toured Mexico, and I did the Italian national anthem, and then the halftime show, and then I was a professional entertainer basically doing gigs 4 or 5 times a week. After a couple of years of doing that, I realized I was really tired. So, as you know, in the news recently, there's a lot of sexual harassment that goes on in the entertainment industry. And so I didn't want to keep being valued so much as an object. So I wanted to search beyond that. And so I actually met my husband at a pretty young age, and he too was touring with another music group. I said, we really need something that has some steady income. And so one thing that I was actually passionate about was, I remembered ever since I was like 14 when the Flop Houses show started coming on in HGTV. I always thought, man, when I make it in the music business, I'm going to take my earnings and I'm going to invest it into some property. But instead, my husband had 13 years experience in construction. And he says, well, I don't know what else to do for steady income besides be a carpenter. I said, okay, great. We'll start a company then. I didn't have any clue about construction. And at the time, I did decide to go back to school. So I was going to college. I was a full-time college student, working and then also doing the music business thing at night. And so I was pretty busy. But it started with just doing cold calls. And after a month or so, I just got really lucky. There was a lady, it was a couple years after Ike had hit Houston. She still had tarp on her apartment complex. She was a manager. And nobody wanted to help her because they were so inundated with all the other work, which is kind of what's happening here in the city now, is some of the places and areas that are a little bit more in the humble areas are not being addressed as quickly. So she asked if I could help her read an insurance contract and help her get the funding to fix the roofs. And I said, oh, sure, no problem. So I ended up going to adjuster school that weekend, came back the next week, read through her 800-page insurance deal that she had on her
her desk, understood it a little bit, called the insurance company, and then we made our first agreement, which was pretty good sized contract, which stated if I get you this funding, then A Status Construction gets the work. And so it ended up working out for us that way. And that was our first commercial project. And then we did a lot of residential for many, many years. And then a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, we started getting more into public sector. And the University of Houston, it was an honor for me to do that for Harvey. And coming back here was really nostalgic because the classrooms that actually helped remediate were classes that I sat in learning accounting principles. And so it was really neat for me to come back and put the school back together. It is an interesting industry. I actually ended up falling in love with it because it makes me unique, I guess. And I think that was the same thing about being a musician. I've always kind of been a little bit different, but I've always been determined to do something that not everybody does for some reason or another. I think that just has to do with a little bit of my upbringing. My mother always said, I don't care if you want to be a maid, I don't care if you want to be a waiter, you're going to be the best maid and the best waiter that there is in the whole United States. You're going to work hard, you're going to, do your best. And so it was kind of the same thing in construction with the challenges that we face as being a woman and then being a minority woman and then being a young minority woman. It has definitely been an interesting journey. But fortunately, I'm so glad that the university has given us the opportunity to be able to show that we are more than capable and we do an awesome job. I'm so proud of our team, and we really look forward to a long-term relationship with the university as well as other districts as well. So
excellent. And what have you learned along the way in terms of, so you are in a field that is not generally friendly to women, and you're managing to do a good job and really to do beyond just doing a good job. If you were to sort of distill the learning that you've had in the last few years, what would your takeaways be?
So I think don't take no for an answer. I guess I've been told no so many times. So it started with doing a smaller project here and then growing into now we have a joint venture to do a $47 million parking garage. And I think it has to just do with the determination and not being afraid to, quote unquote, break the rules, meaning that we're breaking barriers and not going with just what the general standard is. So it is actually really cool for me to go into a board meeting, our boardroom meeting with 15 older gentlemen, and I'm, everybody assumes I'm the secretary a lot of times. But no, it's changing the industry. It's letting women know that, opportunities in this field are possible. And there's actually, there's an endless amount of opportunities with how much infrastructure is being built. And we are actually really great at a lot of things we do, everything we do, really. Women sometimes, I think, in my opinion, do it better. No, it's been a challenge just because there's not very many women out there, and we are one of the first Hispanic female general contractors to be able to accomplish as much as we have in the city. And we're very proud of that, and we advocate for that, and we also help other businesses who are starting out like I was to try to give them the experience to be able to elevate themselves, because we would love to see more women do well in the construction industry, and just know that you don't have to be a male to be good at this job. It's actually really cool what I do to see something be built from nothing into an actual building or infrastructure or a parking lot. I take pride in even driving around this campus knowing, hey, I did that concrete, or I did that asphalt. Or we fixed that wall. It's a little bit of history for me. So I would just say, don't let anybody tell you you can't. You can, and you just have to keep pushing, because eventually, after 100 no's, there will be one that will say yes.
Resilience is the quality, I guess.
Absolutely.
Never take it. And then you're always striving to be the best, no matter, like you said before, it doesn't matter what job you do, it has to be the best.
And actually for us, we have to be better.
Right.
Because we're proving that we can do it. Because we're young, we're women, we're Hispanic, that doesn't mean that we can't. But the fact that we are, there's a lot of skeptics going into it. Well, how does she know? Can she run that piece of machinery? Does she know how to finish concrete? And they're very surprised when we do. But for that reason, we are not allowed to make any mistakes. We have to do a good job so that we can get more work. And then finally, people start to ease to that idea, oh, wow, we're gonna call them next time. So
I want to pick up on that. You made some very interesting comments. I want to tie back to that. But we're going to take a short pause now to hear an important message from our sponsors. And when we return, we'll continue this conversation with our guest, Raquel Boujourne, Bauer alumna, who is doing a fabulous job in the construction business, A-Status Construction.
Bauer College's executive education program is training business professionals and leaders to tackle the challenges of tomorrow. Courses in consulting, strategy, analytics, project management, and more led by Bauer's award-winning faculty. Find open enrollment programs at bauer.uh.edu/exec.
And we're back again with Raquel Boujourne, and she is the owner, the CEO, if I may, of A-Status Construction. Just an amazing story. So before our break, Raquel, you were talking about, there are situations where, given that this is such a male-dominated field, you're trying to do business with a room full of males who probably look at you as, who is she and does she even know what she's talking about? How do you change that conversation to one where they start giving you credibility and respect what you bring to the table?
Yeah. So the initial part of even being able to sit around the table is really honorable for me because, one, whenever you get to that point, it's because you've been graded. It's like normally a 6-month process. You go through an interview process. They check your resume. So if you're sitting around a table, it's because you're qualified to be there. But there's still always a question in someone's mind, and it's happened to me almost 99% of the time. Well, they're kind of expecting someone else to walk into the room besides a young woman who's owner of this company. And so, actually, just recently, we were awarded a $47 million parking garage, and in the initial meeting, there's 15 gentlemen, and at the very end of the meeting, someone just blankly asked, "Hey, so what is it exactly that you do?" Which kind of was a question to me of how is it possible that someone like you, or why you? And I feel like I could write a book about why you, but the response to that was, as I kind of laughed, and I said, well, gentlemen, I just don't show up just to look pretty here at the meetings. I actually have to do some work. Every day is a different day. Some days I'll do customer relations. Some days I'm actually out in the field doing quality control, which is really important to us to make sure that we provide the best, finished product to our client. And yeah, if I notice something's wrong, that comes with experience and time over being in the industry for 9 years and noticing, hey, I don't like the way that finish looks, or I don't like the way that wall looks. I don't like that imperfection there. We need to fix it. And so actually a lot of my crew, actually all of my crew, respects the fact that if there is a question on a blueprint or in the field, they can call me and I can answer their question. And so I think that's actually a part of being a good leader, is that if you're going to lead people and ask them to do something, it's important for you to be knowledgeable of what it is you're asking them. And so I think in time, just like at the end of that meeting, they all warmed up to, oh, okay. So I give them a little bit about my background, and then, we'll start kind of getting into technical conversations, and then they'll start going, oh, okay. Yeah, she does know what she's talking about. Okay. And then, after more, a couple more meetings, they warm up, and then I'm considered like an equal. But it always starts out to, there's a lot of skeptics of, this has never been seen before. I've never seen this before. And there are people that have been in the industry for 40 years that have never seen a young woman around the table to have a conversation about a $50 million job. It's just not, it's just not heard of. So, but I think it's really, I think almost like the toughness and the scrutiny of being in the music industry kind of prepared me for that. Because even in the music industry, it still is a male-dominant industry running, even, the females. And so it's kind of the same scenario, but we're changing that.
Yeah, that's what you said is very interesting, because you're sort of, you got used to, I don't want to say people not treating you the right way, but when people ask you questions of that nature, you don't take it personally. You say, this is my job to educate them, and then let's move on. Right. As opposed to, they said that about me, and that should not have been done, and I'm just victimized. You never let that get to you, right?
No.
And I think that's a big part of your success, if I may.
Yeah. No, I think that is the key to changing people's mindset, is not to be so much on the defense, even though you can be easily on the defense all the time, and we can be victimized. I think it's important just to do better and prove them wrong, because then at the end of the day, if you do it right, there's no more question about it. And then it kind of opens their eyes to, well, okay, women can do this. And so it kind of opens that possibility for other women. So, that's...
I love that. Do better and prove them wrong. Prove them wrong, right?
Yes.
So that's a challenge. And when you look at it as a challenge as opposed to, I was treated unfairly, then the whole, your attitude changes. So
no, we have to approach it. And with every project, we approach it as we're equal, right? And sometimes people don't know that the owner is a woman, because I'll have male representation a lot of times at projects, and then they'll say, oh my God, it's a young woman. Just like I'm going through it at another school district right now. Oh, she's the one that actually started. Oh, okay, wow, that's pretty cool. So no, it's evolving, and I think that's the right attitude to take in any male dominant industry. Is we have to be stronger. We got to be better, and we just have to keep proving them wrong.
Do you see a lot of women coming into the business in terms of, say, the folks that you hire? What does that demographic look like?
So right now, there isn't so many women coming into the construction business as much as we would like to see. But I will say that I'm teaching a lot of women, like even at the Harvey Recovery here at Melcher, I had a couple of females doing drywall. And the men were looking at me like, is she going to be able to do this? And I said, watch her. She's going to do awesome. And so it's kind of like with me, I didn't ask for, there's a saying, don't ask for, permission, just ask for forgiveness. I just wanted to learn. And so I just did things, and sometimes I would do them wrong, but then I would learn how to do them right and correct it. And so I do the same thing with women that come into the field that want to work with us. I just throw them in there and say, well, learn. You're around everybody that knows how to do it. Take this time, learn from the expert, and then eventually you'll get it right. But practice makes perfect. And so, and to have no fear either. Don't be intimidated about, getting on a piece of equipment like a skid steer or a backhoe. It's like, to me, it's like a video game almost, that you have to be very careful. But no, you can do it, and you can do anything you put your mind to.
Nice. Earlier on, you alluded to how you would like to help others in this area. In other words, giving back and helping minorities, helping more women. How does that fit into your daily schedule or, the nature of your business?
Yeah. So I'm the vice chair of an organization called the National Association of Minority Contractors. And that's exactly what we advocate for, is helping other minority businesses. There is actually a couple of females who are CEOs of their company on my board. And we have a monthly meeting. We discuss topics like this. And then we also attend other events that are going on around the city. And I think we've done a pretty good job of other, places like the city of Houston being aware of what it is that we do advocate for. And what our goal is if we can have 100% minority participation, we'll do it. And if I don't mind working with companies I've never worked with before, I'm willing to take a little bit of risk in that because I really enjoy watching companies grow. And I've been able to help other companies who started with just one person or two people and have seen them evolved. And I'll refer them work that we can't do because it's too small of a scope or our schedule's full. Right now, we hardly do residential. So if I get a call about residential, I'll call one of those smaller minority companies and give them that referral. And so that's really a privilege to us because we feel like the more that you do that, the more that you give out, the more that you receive back. And I think that that's exactly what has happened and why our company has done so well is because the community knows that we're going to advocate for them and we're going to have their back as much as they will have ours.
Nice. And I have to ask you this as Dean of the Business School, right? So what skills did you learn, let's say, while you were doing your MBA that are applicable in the context of what you do today?
So I think a lot of there were so many classes that were so important. Logistics is super important in construction. Knowing when to schedule, knowing the timing, knowing how much of something that you need and when you're going to need it. And actually all the softwares that we utilize are kind of based on just that topic. Accounting is so important. There's so many companies that don't have a good financial understanding of where they are at any point in the year. And we know that if you want to grow as a business for bonding purposes or for loan or lines of credit, which is necessary, you have to have a grip on understanding what your business is doing, financial, the marketing part of it, business development. That's another part of, growing your business. You can't be afraid to ask. You can't be afraid to go to events and network and just put yourself out there and give your business card. And actually, the funny thing is that's probably one of your staff members had come down and asked me for a business card the second day that we were doing the Harvey remediation. And I was out of my business cards. And I said, oh, my God, that's something you learn in class. You're not supposed to run out of your business cards. That's bad marketing 101. But all those skills have really been applicable in this business. And I think the discipline of being able to start something and finish it is also really important.
Excellent. Let's see, we've learned so much from what you've said and what you've shared. Is there anything else you want to share as a final talking point or anything you want to let us know?
Yeah, I just want to say again, ASAS Construction and my team we are just so honored to be here. And we're super excited about the University of Houston working with us. And thank you for having me. It's been a complete honor. I think it's so cool that you signed my diploma and I have it hanging in my office. And here we are having a conversation. So to all the students out there, I was only in school just, a few years ago, and here we are. And so it just goes to say that dreams do come true and anything is possible as long as you work hard for it. It's not easy. There's days where we have 18, 20-hour days. But the cool thing about it is I love what I do. So just find your passion and run with it.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series from the C.T. Bauer College of Business, brought to you by the Working Families Initiative. The initiative aims to provide support and access for women in business school and the workforce, and to generate research that organizations can use to implement policies and standards to benefit a diverse workforce. For more information about Bauer College and this podcast series, visit www.bauer.uh.edu/podcasts.